Now we move on to the race for the Republican nomination for governor of Pennsylvania. As you know, Democratic Governor Tom Wolf, who is term limited. So the race to succeed him on the Republican side has begun. So with us tonight, and I am hopefully doing this in alphabetical order, Guy Ciarrocchi, the CEO of the Chester County Chamber. Charlie Giroux, the founder and CEO of Quantum Communications. Melissa Hart, former member of the United States House of Representatives and a former member of the Pennsylvania State Senate. She survived. I have one note here on a missing candidate. That would be State Senator Scott Martin from Lancaster. Alas, he fell, broke his John Ventre, a retired UPS executive down there. Dave White, former city council member and founder of DWD Mechanical Contractors. Dr. Nitch Zama, who is a cardiothoracic surgeon. Have I left anybody out? I don't think so. All right, the rules for tonight are I'll give you a 2-minute opener and a 1-minute closing, and then we'll try and keep to 1 minute on your questions as we go along. Let me see here. All right, let's move into the questions. Let's have an opening statement. Let's do that from everybody here for a minute. Okay, 2 minutes. Sold. So we'll do 2 minutes here. Dan over there is having a coronary, but we'll do that.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
My name is Jason Ritchie. I grew up in a blue-collar family in Western Pennsylvania. I'm a 3-time NCAA All-American wrestler from Allegheny College, and I worked in the steel mills to put myself through law school. I am a leader, and I am a fighter. And for the last 50 years, Pennsylvania has been in economic decline. Places like the one we're in today, Lawrence County, has lost population every single year since 1970 as people flee for places of better and greater economic opportunity. This must stop. I am like you. I am frustrated that politicians year after year, decade after decade, do not come forth with bold solutions and a bold plan to fix Pennsylvania. My wife, Melissa, who's my wife for 21 years, we have 3 boys, Justin, Logan, and Marcus. They're all in high school, and we want them to live in Western Pennsylvania and grow their grandkids up right here in Western Pennsylvania with us. It's love, it's family that we all want, and that's why I'm running for governor. I am a political outsider, not connected to any special interest group or to some big money. I am doing this for the people, and I am standing up so that our kids and grandkids stay right here in Pennsylvania. We have developed and brought together some of the best experts in the state, and we have developed a 12-point plan called the Contract with Pennsylvania, and you can find it on my website, jasonritchie2022.com. And if we bring ourselves down to 0% income tax, unleash our manufacturing and energy capabilities, we will make Pennsylvania an economic juggernaut where our kids and grandkids will stay. Thank you very much.
Charlie.
I'm Charlie Giroux, and as I look across the stage and see my old friend Jeff Lord, I'm particularly happy because Jeff and I began our careers working for Ronald Reagan. And from Ronald Reagan to CPAC, where I'm currently the vice chairman, and I hope that all of you have either attended CPAC or will soon in the future when President Trump returns to our main stage, I've led the fight for individual liberty, for personal responsibility, for economic opportunity and for prosperity for every Pennsylvanian. I'm running for governor because I believe our nation is in a battle for its heart and soul. And I believe that those battle lines run right across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania this year. We can reject the big government, lockdown, shutdown, mandate economy of Tom Wolf and Josh Shapiro, and we can choose a future of hope, growth, and opportunity. I've lived in Pennsylvania longer than anybody on this stage, but I wasn't born here. I was born in a slum in southern Brazil. My birth mother realized that she couldn't take care of me, and so she put me up for adoption. She asked only one thing of the little mission where she took me, and that was that I come to America because she believed that here I had the opportunity to succeed. And so I took every chance I could. Adopted by American missionaries, we came to Pennsylvania. I built a small business from scratch, and I continue to fight against Josh Shapiro and the big government Democrats every single day. Today, Josh Shapiro took on one candidate on this stage. It was me. And you know when that happens, you've hit a raw nerve. So I'm asking all of you for your help in this fight, because although I'm the happy warrior, I'm also a tough fighter. And I'm here from the people, for the people. Thank you.
Dr. Zama.
Greetings, everyone, and thank you, organizers, for this opportunity to be here to fellowship with you today. My name is Dr. Enche Zama. I am a retired cardiothoracic surgeon, a scientist, a published author, but most importantly, a humanitarian. I'm that poor kid from a grass hut village with illiterate subsistence farmers in Africa who left Africa to study medicine because my mother, 30 years old, bled during childbirth in front of me as I held her hand. And armed with $20 and God's help, I arrived in America and went on to acquire one of the most enviable educations I could ever ask for. And I stand here today because I want to lead the charge to make a better future for the children of this state. Scalpel represents the ultimate in leadership qualification. You're battle-tested to the extremes. Seconds. You have to be a compassionate, critical thinker. You have to have a holistic view on human life. You have to be trusted by the person looking up at your knife. You have to be committed to excellence, and you have to be able to lead a high-performance team and make life and death decisions on a daily basis and on the spot.
That's time.
Melissa Hart.
It's great to be here again in Newcastle. I'm Melissa Hart. Some of you may remember I used to be your congressman 15 years ago. And I've always been a Republican who gets elected in Democrat districts. I entered public service as a young woman, challenging an incumbent state senator in 1990 at the age of 28. And I won that district, and I won it twice more and served 10 years as a state senator. The reason I say this is because I know state government, I've learned state government. I had the opportunity to chair the State Senate Finance Committee and cut the inheritance tax and work with Governor Ridge to cut more taxes and try to right-size government. I went to Washington, D.C., bigger challenge about right-sizing. But I did have 3 terms there, again, in a multi-county district here in western Pennsylvania, including Lawrence County, where we were able to cut capital gains taxes and work together to try to create a better atmosphere in the country. I came back home 15 years ago, went to practice law at a small law firm. I serve on the board of directors of a small business lender. I think you may be understanding the theme of why I may be back up on this stage after 15 years in private life. Government is not helping. Government is making it harder, and it's been getting worse under the Wolf administration over the last 7 years. What I care about Pennsylvania, that's why I'm in this race. The heart of Pennsylvania took a direct hit by an administration that thought they could pick the winners and losers by saying your business is essential, but yours is not. It's time we look at government as the servant of the public. I've done this, and I'm electable. I submit to you that among the people on the stage, I have the best experience, both federal and state, and also the opportunity that we have now to fix our policy, grow the state, and keep our clout in Pennsylvania and grow it.
Bill McSwain.
Incompetent, far-left politicians have allowed crime to run rampant. Inflation has robbed our paychecks. Mandates have shut businesses and schools. And our individual rights and our freedoms are under assault. A career politician cannot fix this, but I can. I'm Bill McSwain. I'm a native Pennsylvanian. I'm a husband. I'm a father of 4. I am a United States Marine. I'm a federal prosecutor, and I'm a United States attorney appointed by President Trump. He entrusted me with one of the most important jobs in his administration. Public service is in my blood. Now, the motto of my Marine Corps unit is whatever it takes. As governor, I will restore freedom and law and order. I will ensure that every child has a quality education. I will revive our economy so that Pennsylvania families can prosper. And I will restore election integrity to our state. Whatever it takes. Thank you.
Guy Sorochi.
Good evening. When 2 weeks to flatten the curve became months, I was the first chamber president to speak out against the lockdowns because I saw what they were doing to local businesses, to our kids, and to our liberty. But I've always been speaking out. I attended my first March for Life in 1997. I helped pass the charter school law in 1995 and then helped charter schools open. I helped push for the education tax credit in 2001 and then helped teach about their jobs, about inflation, about the cost of buying groceries and heating their home. That his kids were locked away and told they couldn't go to school or couldn't even go to the Little League field. But leadership isn't just telling you about how bad things are today.
15 seconds.
Great state.
business to a $85 million a year business. That's through hard work. Make sure our streets are secure, that our men in blue and the women in blue get the funding needed so they can keep our streets safe. Without streets, you can't have a good education and a good economy. I'm looking forward to discussing that tonight, and thank you for having us.
John Entry.
Okay. My name's John Ventry. I grew up in New York City in the projects and some lousy neighborhoods. I'm street smart, and my background in education is in criminal justice. I had a 35-year career with UPS. The last 26 years was as an executive. I was promoted at 29 years old in one of the worst areas of Brooklyn and Queens. I've held many different hats with them in 6 different states. I was in charge of security, so you know I'm tough on crime. Put out a weekly Never Socialist newsletter. I think some of you get that. Reaching out to Asians and Hispanics to become Republicans. There's 1.5 million Asians and Hispanics in Pennsylvania. I reach out to them, and I believe I'm the only one up here with a specific website that does that. Resumes matter. My resume is full of boards and charities that I served on: Juvenile Diabetes, Rotary Club President, United Way, et cetera, et cetera. There's a whole bunch of them. You got to go to voteforventry.com to see them. When I retired, I spent 4 years on TV. I wrote 10 novels on 5 different topics. I had a 45-minute interview on Anderson Cooper, and I don't like him. So.
You are elected governor.
People to PA. What Tennessee has showed us is that bringing 0% income tax can make a huge difference. And if you've been to Nashville recently, you've seen what was a dry southern town has come into a metropolis. And that is because an income tax is the worst tax, because all it does is penalize people who have the audacity to get off their butt and go out and work. So if we bring Pennsylvania slowly over time to 0% income,
where we have faith in our elections, because ultimately, if we don't, there really are no winners. And a governor can and should take care of that from day one. I fought for election integrity. I did it immediately after the 2020 election, and I've continued to do it. And it's one of the reasons why Josh Shapiro took me on today. We ought to all think about why he singles out one candidate to go after. It's because we're after him.
Dr. Zama.
Everyone in this room has experienced the side effects of a mismanagement of the COVID pandemic. It has upended human lives, led to disastrous consequences with a high incidence of suicide among our children and a high incidence of mental health within families. Our mothers are sick. It has been mismanaged. Unnecessary mandates, and education. My priority within 24 hours is to establish a pandemic management and interceptive medicine council like no other state has and nobody else has been considering. Because the lives of the people in Pennsylvania are of a priority to me, and I intend to protect them.
Melissa Hart.
I think everybody has good ideas about what they would do on their first day. But one of the things that's keeping our economy from coming back to life is the fact that we don't have any stability. From day to day, we don't know what our state government is going to do to us. So I would place out there an agenda of making sure, number one, that our students will be in school. No more instability from one day to the next, knowing whether or not you're going to be able to go to work because your kids are going to be home on the computer, or just the fact that your kids are just being mistreated by the state, the problems with depression. I would work to focus on stability in education, stability in our workforce. We need to
My first order of business as governor would be to call a special session of the legislature so that we can get to work fixing our state. I like Charlie's idea. I agree that we should repeal Act 77, and the people who voted for Act 77 in this race should be held accountable for that vote. We need to repeal that law. But secondly, what I would also want to do with the special session of the legislature is to have meaningful education reform, modeled after current House Bill 1, which is a transformational school choice bill. I am the only candidate who has already issued a Parent's Bill of Rights, and it starts with meaningful school choice. And I want to be clear,
15 seconds.
School choice is not anti-public education. I'm a product of public education. I support public education. But school choice means that we're going to support students and families and teachers, and we are not going to support the teachers' unions. The days of the teachers' unions calling the shots will be over.
Guy Sorochi.
So the first thing I would do is if there are any mandates or lockdowns in effect, they're removed day one. But the first policy issue we have to face, you knew I would bring pictures here to Newcastle. So the first thing we would do is work on our kids. We need a rescue mission. The first thing I would ask the legislature to do is to give us a bill to help our kids. There are so many kids trapped in failing schools. Here's what we need to do. There are schools in Pennsylvania that are so poorly operated that no one on the school board would send their kid there. If there's a school in Pennsylvania where no one on the school board would send their child, that school ought to close. We need accountability. Second, there are 50,000 That should be our first priority on day one, rescuing our children.
Dave White.
Yeah, there's two things right off the bat I can think of, but there'll be 100 other things we need to get done. But Josh Shapiro at that time will have initiated RGGI, the Regional Green Gas Initiative. So on day one, I will sign an executive order removing Pennsylvania from RGGI so we can get our energy crop and moving forward. The second executive order will be also to remove all pay for stay-at-home workers. We have to get back to a program that if you're on unemployment, you need to look for a job, you need to be actively seeking a job. We have to stop subsidizing people not to work. We have a problem in this economy with that. We don't have enough workers, and it's because we're paying them to stay at home. That'll end on day one of my administration.
John Ventry.
We're going to move fast. First 100 days, we're going to implement my entire plan. Pennsylvania is the 15th highest tax state. We're rated number 40. Southeast PA, 50% for the rest of the state because you're not doing as well. Everything else is going to flow from that. You have to increase your revenue first. I want to hear a sucking sound out of the Northeast as those jobs come here. We're the gateway to the Northeast. We're 15th highest in taxes. They're worse. So, you know, Pennsylvanians drive through Pennsylvania. They don't even stop for gas because our gas tax is so high. So
Democratic nominee. And aside from making the case for yourself, which you would do, what case would you make for not electing him? Start with Jason.
1 minute.
Well, Josh Shapiro has been mentioned. He's against manufacturing. He's against energy. And I want to let all the Democrats out there know he is not for the blue-collar worker. The Republican Party is the party of the working man and woman, and that is a fact. We need to unleash our energy, something that he won't do, and my plan is to build a pipeline network to Philadelphia where we liquefy natural gas from western Pennsylvania and northeastern Pennsylvania, and we start building ships in the naval shipyard again and export it around the world to help the environment, to help our national security, create 50,000 jobs in Pennsylvania, and reduce all of our taxes. That is why it cannot be Josh Shapiro. We've got to be the champions of the blue-collar worker, and I guarantee you, Jason Ritchie, as your next governor, we will create jobs, jobs, and more jobs.
Charlie Giroux.
As bad as Tom Wolf has been, Josh Shapiro would be worse. If Josh Shapiro, God forbid, were to become governor, we'd be looking back at the Wolf administration as the good old days. Josh Shapiro is the guy who took on the Little Sisters of the Poor, who tried to shut down our energy industry, who was the hatchet man for Tom Wolf during the lockdowns and shutdowns, trying to take on little small businesses like the restaurants in central Pennsylvania. And he's never done a job he asked the taxpayers for. Instead, he's been
Dr. Zama.
If If you set low standards, expect poor outcomes. Josh Shapiro would not qualify to lead me, and I still love him. And let me explain why. I'm his ultimate nightmare, and I'm the ultimate package deal. The critical issues that are confronting the people of Pennsylvania, including our children. Education. Some may talk about it. I have built schools, and I currently because he just doesn't have what it takes to lead, a heart and a sense of humanism. Thank you.
Melissa Hart.
And to that point, Josh Shapiro is not a leader. Josh Shapiro, during his public service, has proven himself to be quite the tap dancer. Some of you may recall that when the Governor Wolf decided to force Pennsylvania into the RGGI agreement, that later on some people asked Josh Shapiro what he would do. He did nothing. He thought it was just fine that the governor could shoehorn the state in without a vote by the General Assembly. Something as important as making us change the way we provide energy in Pennsylvania and limit the use of our natural resources. What he did now that he's a candidate for governor is he said, oh, I would repeal it. Well, make a decision. If you want to lead, you have to lead. Josh Shapiro is not a leader.
Bill McSwain.
I am the only candidate who can defeat Josh Shapiro. I am the only candidate with any law enforcement experience. Josh Shapiro should not be governor because he has failed Pennsylvania as Attorney General. And I know all about it because I served as a United States attorney in the Trump administration. And let me give you an example. We had terrible riots in Philadelphia 2 summers ago. Josh Shapiro did nothing to help me to put down those riots. The U.S. Attorney's Office alone, and I alone, went out and charged everybody who had torched a police car, blown up an ATM, started a riot, started a fire, and tried to burn businesses in Philadelphia, and I stopped those riots. And I got no help from Josh Shapiro because he was concerned about his political future and not offending the radical left part of his party instead of serving the citizens of Pennsylvania. So I can prosecute that case, and that's why I will defeat him.
Questions and tried to defeat Vote Yes that all of us worked to pass. He sued the national gas industry. He's against gas. He's against coal. He's against manufacturing. I don't know why anyone in Western Pennsylvania could support Josh Shapiro. It comes down to this. If you believe in big government and Josh Shapiro coming into Western Pennsylvania and telling you he's going to tell you how to live and offer you retraining dollars, if you want to save, but on the other hand, if you want to save for your daughter's wedding, save for your pension and control your future, you join our side. The choice is clear. If you believe in individual liberty and opportunity, you're for our side. If you're for big government, you're for Josh. I believe Pennsylvanians want to be in charge of their own destiny. Josh has no chance at winning.
Dave White.
Why can't he be governor? Because he wants to be president. That's why he can't be governor. This is just an inconvenient step for Josh Shapiro. And as it was said earlier, he wants to be president. The only way he can be president is by running to the left of Tom Wolf. That's why he can't be governor. This is just one step in a rung that he has planned for the past 25 years. And he has said that and stated that multiple times over 25 years. And 3 other words come to mind about Josh Shapiro: liberty, security, and freedoms, in which he failed to protect any of us on that. I'm one of those business owners that Governor Wolf shut down. Josh Shapiro never lifted a finger for me or any of the 10,000 other businesses that lost their business, got in trouble, and was never compensated. That it is against our Constitution. That is something he should have stood up for, and he never raised a hand or a finger to help. That's why he can't be governor. He can't be governor because his next step is president, and that's where he's going for.
John Ventry.
Okay. Everything that Wolf has done falls on Josh Shapiro because he is the Attorney General. It's no different than Fetterman or Kamala Harris advancing to the next level. I got a 20-point checklist, which I won't get through, on Shapiro. He allowed police cars to burn. He told them to stand down. He sent COVID patients back to nursing homes. He selectively closed businesses. They used a loophole to mask our kids. Organ harvesting in University of Pittsburgh. He's supported by groups that want to defund the police. He wants to restrict gun ownership. He allowed the National Guard to move Afghans around the state. He wants to destroy our energy industry. He had a $1 million heroin ring in 2017, and he blew the case. He attacked the Catholic Church and the Boy Scouts. He only prosecuted 2 priests. He sued to stop the election audit. It goes on. Legalized marijuana. He flew people into Scranton, and there's more. Thank you.
All right, let me switch to another topic which is all too familiar for all of us. In the last several years, there have been repeated incidents of voter fraud in Pennsylvania. There have been indictments and convictions for behavior in the 2016, 2015, 2014 election. In 2012, this is one of my favorites, the Philadelphia Inquirer reported after the Romney-Obama election that in 59 Philadelphia voting districts, Republican presidential nominee Mitt Romney received exactly 0 votes, a statistical impossibility. I happened to cover a press conference in October of 2008 at the Pennsylvania State Capitol, held by a retired Pennsylvania Supreme Court Justice, the Dauphin County District Attorney, and the then Pennsylvania Republican State Chairman, Rob Gleason, who said that the corrupt and now disbanded group Acorn submitted 252,595 registrations between March and October in Philadelphia, with 57,435 rejected for faulty information. Chairman Gleason said at the time, voter fraud is no longer just a Philadelphia problem. He said that it has been spread across the rest of the state. And then my favorite story here, one of my favorites, is the 1994 special election for the state Senate. And the Republican nominee, Bruce Marks, a former aide to Senator Arlen Specter, was running against a Democrat named William Stinson. The Democrat Times of all places ran a front-page story quoting the federal judge who overturned the election, and he said the Philadelphia election system had collapsed under a, quote, massive scheme, unquote, by Democrats to steal the election. And as you all know, former President Trump believes the 2020 election was stolen. So my question, as candidates, do you have confidence in the Pennsylvania election system? If you turn out to be the Republican nominee for governor and you're one-on-one with Josh Shapiro or whomever, do you have confidence you're going to be treated honestly and fairly with the vote count? I'll start with you, Jason.
1 minute.
Pennsylvania lacks election integrity. The Republicans conspired with Governor Wolf to create Act 77 and 50 days of mail-in balloting. This is unacceptable. This leads to voter harvesting and led to numerous problems and irregularities throughout our election process. We must, and I will, as governor, lead the effort to repeal Act 77. We must do it, and we will do it, and we will go back. It is both unconstitutional under our state constitution, which calls for voters to go to the polls and gives reasons for absentee ballots, but it's also bad policy because it takes away from our integrity. The Jason Ritchie election integrity plan is threefold.
15
One,
seconds.
we repeal Act 77. Two, we mandate voter ID for everyone that comes to polls. They should say who they are. And three, we will do a statewide holiday for public general elections so that everybody has an opportunity to vote. We have enough poll workers and eyeballs out there everywhere watching what's going on. Repeal Act
That's time.
77.
Charlie Giroux.
And just a moment ago, you heard me call for the repeal of Act 77 as my first act of business. That's where the priority ought to be, because we simply can't have it. The Carter Commission, for crying out loud, said that that was the biggest opportunity for voter fraud, these mail-in ballots. But I think there's more to it than that. We've got to end ballot harvesting. Our campaign is going to be centered on wiping out the fraud before we get to Election Day, because we know where it's occurred. And there's another element here where a governor can have a disproportionate influence. Very few states in this union, only 9 to be precise, have a governor's power to appoint the Secretary of State who administers our elections. I will appoint a Secretary of State who A, knows how to run elections, and B, is committed to the rule of law so that we don't have things made up as we go along, we don't have the law violated, and we can return integrity to our process. That's my promise.
Dr. Zama.
I'm the only one on this podium who's experienced dictatorships. Nothing greater undergirds democracy as we know it than the right to vote and for somebody's ballot to have meaning. And this is not rocket science. I asked 3 questions. What's the problem? Why does it need to be corrected, and how can we correct it? The problem, obviously, is voter fraud. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Why does it need to be corrected? It's obvious. A lot of people died so I can stand on this podium and so you can sit here, because we need the right to vote to maintain our democracy. How should this be addressed? Simple. Let's start with simple things first. Voter ID, electronic ballots, and revisit our Constitution and repeal Act 77.
Melissa Hart.
Well, the story that Jeff told about the 1994 election in the state Senate, I was a state senator when that happened, and it's actually eerily similar that they used absentee ballots, which existed at the time, to commit that fraud. They look exactly like your mail-in ballot, and it's very easy to harvest absentee ballots, as it was at that time, and very easy also to harvest the mail-in ballots. We have to do a lot of things, but first of all, we have to prohibit counties from sending ballots to people who don't request them. We need to follow the law when it comes to what is a valid vote. If you have to date it, then you date it. If it is not dated, it is not a valid vote. We lost a Senate
I know it because I prosecuted it as U.S. Attorney, and I'm the only candidate in this race who has prosecuted voter fraud. Let me tell you about one of my cases. It's from South Philadelphia. The judge of elections, a Democratic judge of elections, was supposed to supervise the polling place. Instead of supervising the polling place, when there was a lull in the action and there weren't voters at the polling place, he would look around. And when the coast was clear, he would go up to the machines and he would just input as many votes as he could. There's even a name for it in South Philadelphia. It's called this mess.
That's time.
That's who I am, and that's what I'll do.
Guy Sochi.
So I grew up in South Philly, and I spent the first 10 years working at polling places in South Philly. So I know a thing or two about voter fraud. If any of you would like to discuss it at great length, you meet out at my table later. We'll go out for a beer and we'll talk the night away. I can tell you what I saw firsthand. We know what the problems are, from the made-up idea of drop boxes dropped anywhere and everywhere with no one watching who drops off what when. Change dates for when ballots are due so that the Democrats can keep running, adding on more time, like adding on more time to a football game. Through waiving the requirement, as Senator Hart said, about signature requirements and dating. Through not having voter ID on ballots, whether they're mailed in or live. We know what the problems are. We know where the fraud comes from. What we need to do is have the courage to fix them. I will. Send a kid from South Philly to Harrisburg. We'll fix the fraud.
Dave White.
It's hard to have confidence in your elections when the sitting governor of your state I'm a big believer, if you voted for Act 77, wrote Act 77, touted what a great election reform bill it was, you can't be the one to fix it. You have to have somebody else come in and fix it. You only get one bite of the apple, and that apple, they really screwed up the election law. They lost that election in 2020 because of Act 77. And I'm going to be the governor that fixes that with voter ID, no mail-in ballots, no drop-off boxes. We're going to get back to real elections that you will have confidence in and I will have confidence in so we can have a real democracy.
John Ventry.
Yeah. I'm very concerned if any of us on this stage can win this, but it's actually getting a little better. Justice, President, a couple of downstate positions. Well, I'm back on the committee, although I don't get invited to meetings.
15 seconds.
The finest president in my lifetime lost because of Act 77. Those three individuals not here, their fingerprints are all over it. They disqualified themselves from running any further in this. We need to clean up the inactive rolls, make Election Day a state holiday, then you don't need mail-in ballots.
Okay, thank you.